there, YouTube viewers. Rectangular back, this time with another review. Here from Diamond Select and Art Asylum, we have the Dark Alliance Series 2 Vandala. Now, I'm not that familiar with this character. I do know that she came from Chaos Comics. They had a series with Lady Death and Purgatory, and I think Vandala had her own title for 2 issues. Other than that, don't know a whole lot about her. I know that her origin story has something to do with her village was getting attacked and her mother pled to Odin, who came to her rescue, rescued her and her sister, and apparently took her to Asgard, raised them, and then she became a Valkyrie. And then her mother, who had part of Odin's power, eventually had another child who I think became Lady Death, who is her half-sister, and then she ended up being enemies with her. That's pretty much all I know. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the package over. This figure came out in 2001, and then the company went out of business in 2002. So they think there was like 4 or 5 figures in each wave. This is from Series 2. Then there was, of course, a Series 1. I think that was Lady Death and Oblivia there that came in Series 2, and also I think the dude is the Cremator. Correct me if I'm wrong, but looks like there were those 4 figures in this wave. And I'm not a mint on card collector, so I don't really care about the packaging so much. It is a little beat up. Obviously, this is a pretty old, it's 13-year-old figure. I was lucky enough to find it on Amazon. They are becoming more and more difficult to find. Some of the other figures, the what was that, Oblivia, the girl with the pistols, she's pretty easy to find, especially out of the package, but Vandala has been kind of challenging. So anyway, let's go ahead and get her out of the package and take a closer look. Alright, so here we've got a 360 view of the figure out of the package without her accessories, and overall she's pretty decent figure for what it is. It's got good sculpt, good paint, limited articulation, but especially for this era of figure, it's, I think, very well done. Only thing I think really could have helped it is to put some paint shading in the wings. As far as paint flaws, the only thing I can really see is on her legs. Looks like, I don't know if it's the sculpt or the paint, is a little bit heavy-handed on one side, and then looks like there's some paint missing on one of her thighs as well. But the gold is a nice bright, shiny color, and the straps all seem to be painted pretty well. There's a little bit paint touch-up that I think might be needed. Excuse me, the jewels seem to be a nice bright green, and I like the kind of glowing, almost silver white that they used for her eyes. It turned out really well. Overall, pretty decent. Alright, so here we've got the figure out of the package with her accessories, and just wanted to quickly go over those real quick, get her out of the way for the moment. And she comes with this really large Bardich or pole axe, and it's nice hard plastic. It's got really good paint shading on it. Very nice. What we expect from Diamond, who make Diamond Select, Marvel Select figures. So really like that. And she comes with this sword. the tip is a little bit dull, so that's frustrating, especially when same company, Diamond Select, makes the Buffy figures, and my Buffy figure had a very nice sharp pointed sword at the tip, so this is much more of a broadsword because of how dull it is, and not too bad as far as detail on the handle and the hilt there. It's got like a little green jewel embedded. I wish they'd put something in between the tape and the blade, because it did have some sticky residue from the tape on there, so that makes it look even more messy. And then the scabbard, which is not usable, doesn't have a actual slot in there, so that's pretty disappointing that you can't put the sword in the scabbard. That would have been nice. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus a little better. So it does have some nice little filigree here on the end of the scabbard, and then a couple, it's got 3 little jewels on the bottom there, and pretty decent sculpt and paint. The gold is a little bit sloppy there on the edges where the blue is, but otherwise not too shabby. Hopefully I can figure out a way to attach this, I guess maybe with some thread, because it doesn't have any kind of strap or anything to affix it. So getting into the figure herself, it looks pretty good. It's got nice paint detail, nice sculpt. The sad thing about it is the articulation, which we'll get into in a second. Just wanted to go over some of the finer points. One of the best features about the figure is the flexible wings. It does have wires inside the wings, so you can manipulate them, pose them in various different angles, and that's very nice. It's really sad that they didn't do the same thing for the new Angel that came in the X-Men Toys R Us box set, and the bottom of the wings are a nice soft rubber material, so they're very flexible. And she is difficult to stand, mostly because of the poor articulation and the high heels, but the wings themselves are actually pretty light. You can see how thin that material is, so she isn't as top heavy as she could be if there were just a thicker plastic that didn't have this nice bendable wire inside. Also, the wings on her headdress are nice and soft too, so if you do get one that's got kind of cockeyed wings, you should be able to heat that up with some hot water and hopefully bend them to your liking. Mine look pretty damn good out of the package. Let's see what else. The hair, the ponytail is a nice soft rubber material as well, so that's pretty cool that you can, there's not a whole lot you can do as far as posing, I guess. You might be able to move it on the other side of her wings, but I don't know if it's just glued on. I think it's just glued on. Yeah, I think there might be just a hole, and it's like just a rubber shaft that goes up inside the sculpt of her hair. Her hair is much harder plastic, just like the rest of the figure. And let's see, pretty much it. The skirt does not come off easily. I mean, you could cut it off, but it's supposed to be on there. It is glued on. It does have a little bit of some separation there, so it can come off without too much trouble, I think. And let's see, these shoulder pads are not removable. They are glued on. and they're pretty good. They don't really hinder the articulation much, so let's go ahead and get into that. The arms can go that far up. The head only goes side to side. You could fully rotate it 360, and since the wings are on her side of her head are flexible, they don't hinder the articulation. You can complete the rotation with those. And I do like that the little nose guard is on it. It's not glued onto her nose, so you can actually lift that up or trim it back if you want to expose her nose some more. Let's see, the arms, they're just on a ball hinge there. No bicep swivel, unfortunately, and that's probably my biggest complaint as far as the articulation of the arms go, because for posing her weapons, she does have a single jointed elbow and a wrist rotation, no hinge, so you can't really get her arms too close to her body. It's about as good as you're going to get there. And for rotating out, you can't, you have to go that way. They can't swivel out, so that's kind of a bummer. And no articulation in the upper body, no torso articulation, no waist articulation, and the legs are on a swivel joint, and they go in slightly different directions. This one kind of rotates around that way, and this one rotates more in an up position, and it doesn't go that far. I guess you could, yeah, you can rotate it all the way around, so you can get her to kick out, but obviously with no rotation there, it looks weird. That's the only real major paint flaw on here. Is I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if it was in the sculpt or just got heavy-handed with the paint, but there's some excess paint there on her leg, so hopefully I can sand that down a little bit and clean it up. And like I said, single jointed knees, not a whole lot of articulation there, and that's it. No articulation at the foot, so pretty limited. I'm hoping I can do some modifications to her to try to improve the articulation a bit. It is nice having the wings, and you could put them on another figure, make them even better. So you can kind of use her wings to help prop her up, but she is pretty top heavy, and you do need to kind of monkey with the pose quite a bit to get her to stand, because she's in those high heels. So just have to keep working on it. Let's go ahead and get her weapons in her hands and see how she looks with those. So because of the way her hands are sculpted, you can really only get her to hold the sword in her left hand, which is pretty unfortunate. The right hand is completely enclosed where the thumb meets the index finger, so you can slide the pole of the axe into that hand, but there's really no way you can get the sword through the hilt into her hand. It's just too wide unless you cut that thumb. So don't know if I'm going to go that route, but at least she can hold both of her weapons. So trying to look on the bright side of things. And finally, for a little size comparison, we have Vandala next to the Red She-Hulk from Marvel Legends, and the Heroic Age Thor on the right, also from Marvel Legends. So yeah, as you can see, she's about 7 inches tall, which is pretty typical for Diamond Select, but she works perfectly in scale with Marvel Legends if she is going to be an Asgardian. Even though females are a little bit shorter than the males, actually is actually just a little tad bit shorter than Thor, which she should be. So I think this figure works in perfectly for me, and yeah, I'm very happy with this purchase. Alright, so hopefully you guys liked the review. You hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already, and I always love hearing back from you guys, so please leave a comment below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later.
That's crispy.